My name is Toby Chalnick. I was born in Brooklyn in 1936.
My name is Murry, but everybody calls me Marshall. I was born 1933. Brooklyn, New York, the same hospital that my dear wife was born in.
No.
Yeah, Bethel.
Were you in Bethel?
Yeah,
okay.
Linden Boulevard.
Can you describe the house that you lived in growing up?
Growing up, I lived in a two-story detached house that my grandma owned, and we had one of those railroad apartments. Grandma lived upstairs. I'm one of 3 siblings. We each had our own bedroom. We had a beautiful porch, which everyone came to every weekend, all the aunts and uncles, and they played pinochle and the women cooked. We had a backyard that my grandma planted vegetables, and I think she had goldfish and a pond. They always had a dog and a cat. I remember them loving animals. My most vivid memory, when my mother would take her loction strap or her belt to hit me, I would run up to my grandma. She would close the door. Schlugnish the kid. Schlugnish. Do not hit her, and she would slam the door shut, and me and Grandma would have coffee. We had that connection, me and my grandma.
So, when I was 10 years old, we lived in Brownsville. We were 6 of us. My brother, let him rest in peace. My sister, Donnie, let him rest in peace. And my sister, Eileen, my mother, my father. 6 of us. We were in 3 rooms. My mother and my father had 1 room. The other room was myself, Freddie, Eileen, and Donnie. When the girls started to get bigger, my mother says, well, you and Freddie have to now sleep in the kitchen. And she had one of those open beds. We had 1 bathroom for the 6 of us, and the little bed was next to the bathroom. Then my grandfather, let him rest in peace, got sick. My mother says, we have to take Grandpa in because he don't want to go into a nursing home. So we took him in, but where's he gonna sleep? He's gonna sleep now on the bed that Freddie and I slept on, the 2 beds. So Freddie now slept on the bed where I was on the bottom, my grandfather on the top. I had no place to sleep. So I slept in the middle of the kitchen on a mattress. Every time anyone had to go into the bathroom, they walked across me, they walked across the mattress. Maybe I was 14 years old, and I was working in a butcher shop, and I came home, I was so tired. Meat and everything was still on my hands, so I lay down to go to sleep on the mattress in the middle of the kitchen, and my hands were on the floor, and the little mice came over, and they were biting on my fingers. So my father then went and he got all the rat poison and everything to get rid of the mice. We only had 1 big closet, and I pulled my mattress into the closet. And now I finally had my own little bedroom. I was thrilled, I was happy. We had a little garden in the backyard. The happiest times my father we didn't have cars, there was not so many cars, it was all horse and wagons. When the horses walked down with the wagons, they sold the fruits and vegetables and clothes and things. When the horses took a dump in the middle of the street, my father was so happy, he went out to get a bushel of manure. It made him so happy, like if somebody would have a diamond ring today, he only had the bushel of manure and took the manure and put it into the garden, the fertilizer.
Yeah.
He had that. He loved the garden.
He always
loved the garden.
Yeah. I was the rich one of the 2 because I always had my own bedroom. We had 4 bedrooms. My mother and father and my sister had to walk through my bedroom to use the bathroom, which was in the hall by the kitchen.
And we only had bedrooms. We never had a living room. When I started to date some girls, when we lived in Brownsville, I went to Flatbush, and we went into a house, and there was a living room. We counted. I says, what is this? What is this? It's not a bedroom? No, it's a living room, we sat there. I think it was the first time I ever saw a living room. Grew up happy though.
What was your mother like?
Sylvia Glasser. Sterling was her maiden name, married a Glasser. My mother loved to cook, and she loved to sing while she cooked. Her happiest moments, I think, were in the kitchen, and she would sing all these beautiful love songs from the 1930s and 40s.
My mother's name was Minnie Chalnick, and because of her, well, Eisenberg was before he got married. Because of her, we went into business. We had 2 fruit stores. When Freddie went into the Army, I left the butcher shop, but I worked there only on Saturdays. I think he gave me $25. The rest of the time I worked in a fruit store. So I was working in a fruit store, worked Saturday, but when I left the fruit store prior, I went down to get unemployment now because I wasn't working in the butcher shop anymore. So I got $23 a week unemployment, $25 I worked for the one day, the other 5.5 days I worked in a fruit store. At the end of the week, my mother gave me $10. When Freddie came out of the army, he worked me $10. We used to go into the bar at night on Livonia Avenue and we went through the $20 just like this here. I says, Ma, you know, what's $10? She says, you know what, that's all you get because we have to save up the money. If you don't have money, you can't go into business and you gotta have the money. But if you want the money, take all the money, I'll give it to you. And so we never took the money and she saved the money and that's how we first went into business. We had 2 fruit stores and then we opened up a superette and we didn't know anything about the business and we had to learn, that's why it worked so hard. Then after being in the superette, we opened up Fred and Murray's Kosher Deli. We didn't know anything about a deli. Thank God we worked hard, we all worked together, and we came out pretty successful and raised a nice good family. I never went to college and I didn't finish high school. So if I didn't have money to go into business, I don't know what I would have done. When we were little, all the mothers were good cooks. There wasn't any supermarkets with frozen foods and frozen pizzas and frozen carrots. Everything was all fresh. My mother was a good cook, but she really didn't like to cook. But my mother was a very, very, very good card player. My mother sometimes made more money playing poker than my father made in a week's pay. We used to play poker in each person's house. Like I told you, I slept in the kitchen with Freddie. But they played now poker there, so where would we go? We used to go into the candy store on the corner. We'd wait and wait and wait, and every half hour look out to see if the card game was over, we can go back home to go to sleep.
Couldn't get up to go to school because his mother played poker and he couldn't get to sleep.
What was your father like?
My dad, George Glasser, he came from Europe, Galicia, Poland. They left because of the pogroms.
Well, the anti-Semitism in
Russia.
Whoever could leave left.
My dad, one of 4 brothers, and they lived on the corner apartment house. My mother fell in love with my father. She had met him in several nights when he'd walk her back to the house, which we were in a private home in the middle of the block, which my other grandma owned. My other grandma, where my father lived, was in the apartment house on the corner. The younger sisters wanted to get married, and my grandma said, not until Shifra, Sylvia, sets a date for her wedding. You have to marry the oldest child first. So my mother finally got married with my father, and then all her sisters followed suit. My mother always said, that hallway, if the walls can speak, it would tell all these stories of all the girls that were in that hallway kissing the guys goodnight and the whole 9 yards. My father was a very gentle, very hardworking man. He was an upholsterer and he did extra work at night. He had a machining out in my grandma's basement and he would make slip covers to earn extra money. And he bought my mother a silver fox jacket, a beautiful muff matched the jacket, her gorgeous hats, and every summer he would rent a bungalow up in the Catskill Mountains and we had to go away for the summer, and he loved baseball. Him and the Dodgers. He would take me to Ebbets Field, and he also liked to go to the Chinese restaurant. My mother didn't go because she tried to keep kosher, so he would take me to the Chinese restaurant. We would sneak away on Pitkin Avenue. I was his partner in crime. He was a very, very generous, good man. My father was a beautiful human being. Yeah.
Now, my father, George Chalnick, he came here, he was 2 years old, and they came from Odessa, Russia. He loved swimming. He could swim all day long. He used to take us out swimming in Brighton. We would swim all the way out and then swim down for a mile or 2 or 3 miles down and then come back in. He held his breath underneath the water for 3 minutes. And when we went down to the beach, when we were a little bit older, God forbid, someone drowned and they thought that that man got stuck in the rocks. The lifeguards asked my father, go to see if anyone was in the rocks. He would go out. So he loved swimming and he loved fishing. He took us out fishing when we were maybe 4 years old. Him and his friend Larry used to carry Freddie, and my father used to carry me, and we went out fishing. Besides that, he worked very, very, very hard. He used to work 60 and 70 hours, get up 12 o'clock at night, in a snowstorm, in a hailstorm, in a rainstorm, walk 6, 7, 8 blocks to the big garage to get his truck, and get the truck, and there were no heaters in the trucks then. There weren't even windshield wipers. When the snow came on, he used to stop the truck, take the snow off, and then ride. Never, never, never made a lot of money. But when we went into business, whatever he could do to help us do, he did.
What were your first jobs?
So,
Oh, my first job.
You want to go first?
Okay.
Or you want me to go first?
No, I'm good.
I know you're good.
When
You
I
always go
lived
first.
in the house with my grandma, half of the apartment was
rented downstairs to the doctor.
to the doctor. I was his receptionist.
When I was 11 or 12 years old, I used to buy balloons, 12 in a package, or a nickel a package. So I used to blow up the balloons, cost me a penny, and I used to sell the balloons for a nickel. The other balloons, I used to put some salt in it, and when I shook them, they would go I sold for 10 cents. Then, when I was 12 or 13 years old, I used to shine shoes. I saved up enough money to buy my own bar mitzvah suit. Then I worked in a butcher shop, and I worked 16 hours, and I got paid $8, 50 cents an hour. I was so happy. I go running home to my mother. I said, Mom, look at this here.
How did you meet?
The boys and girls in the city, Brownsville, we lived in Brooklyn, would congregate on a corner. Usually there's a milk box by a grocery store, and the girls and boys would sit on the milk box, and everyone would come to the same corner.
Let me just interject.
Every summer, my mother and took us.
No, I just wanted to say one thing about when all the kids hung out on the corner, there could have been 25, 30 girls.
Well, that's because they were apartment houses. Here, an apartment house, 50 kids would come out of that one apartment house. Every summer, my mother would rent a bungalow. After the summer, we would come home. He already was on the corner with all my friends who I didn't see all summer, and I showed up. Aha.
How old were you?
13 and a half.
All the girls, it seems, were in this area, for some reason, it was the girl area. They were on one end, there was a pool in between, swimming pool, and we were a boy area. And we used to go over on our bicycles to go over. There were so many girls, but I wasn't serious with any of them. I liked them, they were okay. But just one night, she came back from the country. That's just that one night. And she came onto that corner. As soon as I saw her the first time, I saw that face, I fell in love with her. Right away, and I loved her ever since, and I love her now.
He told his mother,
I
met a girl I'm going to marry.
And I wasn't even
15. He was 15.
But that was the first time.
I think I fell in love within those few months. I really did. And then we didn't see each other all winter. He went to school in Manhattan. I went to Tilden in Flatbush.
Yeah, but we dated.
We went to the Roxy. We saw Danny Kaye in person. Yes, I'll never
forget. We came
home
on a train, 2 o'clock in the morning. It was
3
snowing.
o'clock, it was snowing, yes. I was 15, we were dating. And then it was my sweet 16. And we had it down in my aunt's basement. All my
she was
friends
16,
came.
I was 18 and a half. That's why all the 18s, 19, 20s, we all used to drink.
Well, my father was carrying this big sweet 16 cake that my mother ordered, this gorgeous pure whipped cream cake down the steps. And my future husband just happened by accident, he was drunk, pushed my father.
Knocked into him by accident.
And the cake went down the steps and fell over. And I said, leave this party. I never want to see you again.
She threw me right out. She says, I never want to see you again. I couldn't even apologize to her. Nothing. She says, just get out.
I was horrified.
And she didn't want to date me. She didn't want to see me anymore. But I called her one time.
He was very persistent.
Right. I called her one time, a year later. I called her up for a date, and she went on a date with me. 17.
Once a year.
Then the
Just
next
say once
year,
a year.
I called her again once. And each year, I called her only one time to go out with her. She was dating, I was dating, but she accepted the date with me.
I still had feelings for him. Yeah.
One date a year. That's all. From the time I was 18 till 24, I think I went out only 6 times. But when I was 24, she was 22. We were sitting on the porch. And my dear little Toby says, you know what? We know each other for so long.
I think we should get married.
Yeah, she proposed to me.
I was taking driving lessons and I had to pass his fruit store. Where you coming from, he said. I said, I'm taking driving lessons. Oh, I'll teach you. You don't have to spend money, right, Murry? And he started teaching me how to drive. And we started going together.
She walked from so many blocks to go over here. She could have run around this way, went around this way, but she walked right past my fruit store to see me, right?
I guess so.
I was surprised that she even went. She
He
went
would
with
drink
lawyers.
a lot.
Yeah.
He didn't finish school.
No.
I mean, it wasn't the ideal boyfriend that my mother would have picked for me. But she liked him. He was generous. He used to bring her fish. He would go fishing, and he knew how to butter her up. He would bring her fish. Oh, she loved it.
So now talk to me about the wedding. Was there a wedding?
We had a wedding in Celia, caterers, right?
It was the last chicken wedding.
Oh.
After that, everyone had steaks. Prime rib.
It was a roast chicken wedding. It was after the Depression.
And
You had a chicken wedding.
There wasn't an open bar where you went up to get drinks. A pint of liquor
on each table.
on every table.
Right.
Were there any crazy things that
when
happened?
I walked down the aisle, I'll never forget this. I said to my mother and father who walked with me, am I doing the right thing? I mean, you realize that you're getting married and this is a life. You didn't think of divorce. My mother says, are you crazy? Now you can ask me.
And me, I was so in love with her. She could have did anything, but everything would have been good. I loved her that much. And then we went away on vacation, on a honeymoon. So, Toby was right at the time. She said, let's go to Europe.
Further down in the Caribbean.
On the islands. My mother says, wow, it's going to be so expensive. Just go to Florida. It'll be a third of the money. I talked her out of going to the Caribbean, and we went to Florida. And we were supposed to be gone a week or 2 weeks. We didn't have a day
above 60 degrees.
Above 50. So the first week went away. The second week went away.
To the Caribbean.
Yeah, after 2 weeks went away, I called up my mother. I says, Mom, it's so cold. We're going to wait for the weather to warm up.
Send money.
We stayed on a honeymoon a month. And I don't think we had a day that
never put on a swimsuit.
No, but you know what? We ate lox, eggs, and onions, and we had little mini cookies and rudderlach, and we gained so much weight. Oh my God.
They rolled me down the gangplank. I left size 16. I was a little chubby. I came home size 18. From the lox and eggs and butter and the little rudderlach and the Danish pastries.
Yeah.
How long have you been married now?
Wow. We're married 64 years. It was in February. This February will be 65 years.
So what's the secret to a long, happy marriage?
people have different ideas, and you have to listen to your partner. Your partner could want one thing, you could want another thing, but you have to blend. You have to give. You can't take.
I think also have a lot of common interests. So we always love to travel together, play tennis together. We used to go antiquing all the time. I used to love to go fishing with him. And communication. You have to really communicate.
And there was a lot of times when things were hard, but I had a good partner. She never knocked me or pushed me down. She always tried to get me up. And from that, we were so lucky. We had 4 great children, and my 4 great children gave me 4 more great children. I don't have daughter-in-laws, I have daughters. I have sons and daughters, and I have the greatest grandchildren. You don't need fancy this or fancy that. You need the love of a family.
Family is everything.
It's the most important thing.
Family is everything.
Right. So, I'm glad that my granddaughter Alexa gave us equal time to speak. Because, as you know, the women talk and talk and talk. Sometimes you can't even get in a word. So I'm going to tell you a funny story. A little kid goes to school and he gets a part in a play. He comes home and the mother says to him, "What is your part in the play?" And he says, "Oh, I played a part of a Jewish husband." So his mother says, "Go back to school and tell the teacher you want a talking part." So that's what happened tonight. At least I was able to have a little talking part.
On that note, we will say good night. Good night.
That's all, folks.
That's all.
I can tell you the pajama story. I was 12 years old and I had my tonsils taken out. I was out of school a few days. One morning I got up, I felt good, and I saw next to the bed was a summer suit. I was 12 years old, I never had a suit. My throat was better from the tonsils taken out, and I put on my summer suit. It was white with brown stripes, very, very light, you know. First suit that I ever had, and I was walking down the street, and I had my shoulders back. I saw people looking at me. Oh, my new summer suit. I felt so happy and so proud. We had to walk like 5-6 blocks to get into school. I go into school. I was always late to go into school. I didn't want to go up the steps with a lot of kids. It was too crowded. And I came into school. It was about 8:45. School started at 8:30. And I walk in and the teacher says, "Murry, did your mother see you today?" I says, "No, my mother plays cards at night and she sleeps late. We get up, we make her own breakfast." She says, "You came to school in pajamas." I said, "Pajamas? I never had pajamas. We used to sleep just in our underwear." I said, "Pajamas? What's pajamas? I thought it's a new summer suit." She says, "You better go home and change." I went home. My mother says, "Marshalla, where did you go?" I says, "Ma, I thought you brought me to see a summer suit. Teacher says it's pajamas." That's what I went with.